Marine Officer Lieutenant Colonel Jason Davis had always prided himself on maintaining a disciplined and organized life, both in his military career and his personal life. His time in the military had taught him the value of trust, loyalty, and honor, principles that defined him as a person and a leader. Married to his high school sweetheart, Michelle Davis, Jason believed their relationship was built on a solid foundation of mutual respect and love. However, in 2017, a simple incident would shake the very core of their relationship and reveal a shocking betrayal. While deployed overseas, Jason began to notice subtle changes in his wife's behavior. Their communication seemed distant, and Michelle's responses to his calls and messages grew increasingly delayed. At first, he chalked it up to the stresses of his deployment, understanding that life at home could be overwhelming. However, over time, his suspicions began to grow. He had always trusted Michelle completely, but something felt off, and Jason couldn't shake the nagging feeling that there was more to the story. Unable to shake his doubts, Jason decided to take matters into his own hands. He began to quietly investigate, searching through social media and mutual acquaintances for any signs that could confirm his worst fear. Little did he know that the truth would come to light in a way that no one could have anticipated. The discovery, a shocking revelation. One fateful night while stationed in a remote area, Jason stumbled upon a piece of information that would change his life forever. He received a message from a mutual friend, one who had known both him and Michelle for years. The message contained a photograph that Jason could never have imagined. It was a picture of Michelle smiling in an intimate embrace with another man, someone Jason didn't recognize. The photograph was taken at a location Jason had never seen before. His mind raced as he stared at the image, trying to make sense of it. Was this some sort of joke, a misunderstanding? But the more he thought about it, the clearer it became. The evidence pointed to one undeniable fact: Michelle had been involved in an affair. This was not just an isolated incident, but an ongoing betrayal that had been happening right under his nose. In that moment, Jason felt an overwhelming sense of shock and disbelief. The woman he had loved for years, the woman he had trusted with his life, had been unfaithful to him. And worse, he had discovered the truth while serving his country, far away from home and in a situation where he couldn't immediately confront the issue. The betrayal hits hard. Jason's world seemed to come crashing down around him as he processed the betrayal. He had been stationed in a war zone, giving his all to serve his country, and yet, while he was away, the woman he trusted most had been having an affair. The pain was compounded by the fact that Michelle had been aware of the strain his deployment had placed on their relationship, but had never been upfront with him about the growing emotional distance. As Jason tried to make sense of the situation, he realized how deeply this betrayal cut. He had built his entire life on principles of duty, loyalty, and honor. Yet here he was, the victim of the ultimate betrayal. Michelle's affair felt like a violation not only of their marriage, but of the very values Jason held dear. His mind raced with thoughts of how things had changed. Had she been unhappy for years? Had he been blind to the warning signs? The emotional toll of the discovery was profound. Jason found it difficult to concentrate on his duties, distracted by thoughts of his wife's infidelity. His mission, his work, and his relationships with his fellow Marines were affected as he grappled with the personal turmoil caused by this revelation. The affair. Who was the other man? The next step in Jason's investigation was to uncover the identity of the man in the photograph. He knew it wasn't someone from their circle of friends or family, and that made him more suspicious. It wasn't just a fleeting affair, this appeared to be a serious relationship. After weeks of quiet investigation, Jason was able to identify the man. His name was Mark Stevens, a colleague of Michelle's from her job at a local marketing firm. Mark was a man in his mid-30s, married with children of his own. He had been working with Michelle for several years, and it was clear that their professional relationship had crossed the line into something much more personal. Jason learned that Michelle and Mark had begun their affair shortly after Jason had been deployed, taking advantage of the physical distance between them to maintain their secret relationship. The discovery of Mark's identity brought even more pain to Jason. It wasn't just a random stranger who had stolen his wife's affection. It was someone from her professional life, someone who had been present during the times Jason had been away. The betrayal felt even more intimate, and Jason struggled to come to terms with the fact that Michelle had been living a double life while he was thousands of miles away. Confronting Michelle, the moment of truth. After weeks of emotional turmoil, Jason decided he couldn't wait any longer. He needed answers. The photograph, the affair, the lies. All of it needed to be confronted head-on. The next time he had leave from his deployment, he returned home with one goal in mind: to confront Michelle. When he arrived at their home, he found Michelle surprisingly calm, perhaps unaware of what Jason had discovered. He sat her down and asked her point blank about the affair. Initially, Michelle tried to deny it, but Jason had all the proof he needed. The photograph, combined with other evidence he had gathered, made it impossible for her to lie any longer. The confrontation was tense. Michelle finally admitted to the affair, and Jason felt a rush of emotions: anger, sadness, confusion, and betrayal. But what hurt most was Michelle's nonchalant attitude. She seemed detached, almost indifferent to the gravity of the situation. There was no remorse in her voice, no apology for the pain she had caused. For Jason, this was the final straw. The woman he had trusted, the mother of his children, had not only betrayed him but was indifferent to the devastation she had caused. The end of the marriage. After the confrontation, the relationship between Jason and Michelle was irreparably damaged. Despite attempts at reconciliation, there was no going back. The betrayal was too deep, and Jason could no longer trust Michelle. He began the painful process of ending their marriage, a decision that would forever alter the course of his life. Jason filed for divorce, citing adultery as the primary reason. The legal proceedings were difficult and emotionally charged, as the couple had 2 children together. Jason's main priority was to ensure the well-being of his children, but the emotional fallout of the divorce would have long-lasting effects on everyone involved. Michelle, on the other hand, seemed unbothered by the breakdown of their marriage. While Jason struggled to come to terms with the end of their relationship, Michelle moved forward with her life, continuing her affair with Mark. It was a bitter pill for Jason to swallow. The woman he had spent years loving was now living a life without him, seemingly without any remorse. The fallout. Impact on children and family. The dissolution of Jason and Michelle's marriage had a profound impact on their children. The once stable family life that Jason had worked so hard to build was shattered. Their children, who had grown up in a household that emphasized honor and trust, were now facing the painful reality of divorce and betrayal. Jason made every effort to ensure that the children maintained strong relationships with both parents, despite the tension that now existed between him and Michelle. However, the emotional toll of the affair and the subsequent divorce was impossible to ignore. The children, though young, were aware of the rift between their parents, and Jason found himself grappling with how to explain the situation to them in an age-appropriate way. The fallout also extended to their extended families. Friends and relatives, who had once admired the couple, now found themselves caught in the middle of the drama. Some sided with Jason, while others sympathized with Michelle. The once tight-knit community around the couple began to fracture as a result of the scandal. The role of social media in the affair. In today's digital age, social media plays a significant role in the lives of many people, and it was no different in Jason and Michelle's case. During the investigation, Jason discovered that Michelle and Mark had been regularly communicating through private messages and posts on social media platforms. Although their affair had begun offline, the couple's use of social media allowed them to maintain their secret relationship even more easily. Jason was stunned to see just how many messages and interactions had taken place right under his nose. Michelle and Mark had been sharing personal details, intimate photos, and even discussing future plans together. It became clear that their affair wasn't just a fling, it was a serious emotional connection that had been nurtured over time. Social media was a double-edged sword for Jason. While it provided him with concrete evidence, it also deepened his sense of betrayal. The ease with which his wife had hidden her affair was a reminder of how far technology had come in facilitating secret lives. Jason struggled to move on. As the months went by, Jason found it increasingly difficult to move on from the betrayal. The emotional scars of Michelle's affair ran deep, and the sense of betrayal lingered long after the divorce was finalized. Jason struggled with feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. He questioned everything about their marriage. Was he not enough for Michelle? What had gone wrong? However, Jason eventually realized that he needed to focus on healing and rebuilding his life. He sought counseling and therapy, both for himself and his children. Through therapy, Jason began to come to terms with the pain he had endured and started to understand that Michelle's actions were not a reflection of his worth as a person. Over time, Jason found the strength to forgive Michelle, not for her sake, but for his own. It was a difficult and ongoing process, but it allowed him to release the anger and resentment that had weighed him down for so long. The road to recovery was long, But Jason began to take steps toward healing and focusing on his own well-being and the future of his children. Lessons learned. A changed man. The aftermath of the affair changed Jason forever. He had once believed that honor, loyalty, and trust were the cornerstones of every relationship, but now he understood that these values were not always reciprocated. While Jason still valued those principles, he also learned the importance of setting healthy boundaries and prioritizing self-care. Through the process of divorce and healing, Jason realized that he could not control the actions of others, but he could control how he responded to them. He learned that forgiveness, while challenging, was necessary for his own emotional peace. Ultimately, Jason's story is one of resilience. While the betrayal of his wife's affair left scars, it also taught him valuable lessons about love, trust, and the importance of self-worth. As he moved forward, Jason vowed to protect himself and his children from future hurt and to live a life that honored the principles he held dear.